Hello, I'm acclaimed Julia Morris body double Trevor Ashley, and welcome to Drag Hag. On today's episode, we will recap RuPaul's Drag Race Episode 4, interview the eliminated queen, and my celebrity drag hag is Neale Whitaker.
Drag hag, you're a drag hag, a bona fide first class, a drag hag, you're a drag hag, you're a drag hag, a bona fide mother-tucking first class, drag hag.
My very special guest this week is the amazing style guru, block judge and star of Love It or List It Australia, my favourite show on television, Mr. Neale Whitaker.
Oh, Trevor.
Thank you.
I'm so excited to be here.
It's so wonderful to have you here, and I know that you're a huge fan of RuPaul's Drag Race.
I certainly am.
That's wonderful.
Since day one, day dot, I think.
Who was your favourite Ru girl of all time?
Do you know what? I was thinking about that this morning, and God, there's so many of them. It's like a roll call, isn't it, of sort of drag excellence. But do you know what? I think my favourite would probably still be Pearl.
Pearl was your favourite?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
Hard to go past Pearl.
Yeah.
As a girl and a boy.
Fair enough. Gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous.
But there have been so many. I mean, when I think back to, Bianca Del Rio and, Adore Delano and Raven and Nina Flowers in season 1. There's just so many.
There have been a lot of girls who have gone through. Now, obviously, you've lived in Australia a very long time, but you were from England before that.
Yes.
Did you go and see a lot of UK drag when you were there?
Of course.
Yes.
I mean, I'm being a man of a certain age, Trevor.
Yes.
I remember back in the sort of 80s and early 90s in London, when you'd go to a gay bar, gay pub, it was only drag.
Yes.
That was all there was. I mean, that was the gay scene. And there were some wonderful old drag acts that I remember from those days in London, like Regina Fong at the Black Cap in Camden, Jimmy and Maisie Trollet, who were as old as God.
Wow.
And I think Jimmy died first of all, and then Maisie trolled on for a few years afterwards. But these were a different type of drag queen.
Yeah,
the wigs were always a bit
absolutely.
skew-if, and the makeup looked like it had been put on in a wind tunnel. And, it wasn't like today. But these guys were funny as.
Yeah, always comedians, because it was in that really sort of music hall tradition from England, and the panto dames and all of those sort of sort of feel. So when you came out here, what did you think were the biggest differences between Australian drag and UK drag? What did you find the most?
Oh, well, there was such a lot of it, a lot of Australian drag in all the bars and clubs and pubs around here, certainly, because I was living in this area, in the epicentre.
So we are on Oxford Street
now,
at Ginger's above the Oxford, and you used to live just behind the Taxi Club, which is now a block of apartments.
Yes.
But the legendary Taxi Club, which was where a lot of trans people would go, a lot of drag queens would go, and a lot of, shall we say, drag enthusiasts would go to pick up drag queens.
Well, all the above. I'm not
all of it.
But it was fun. It was a hell of a lot of fun, that bar. I mean, it was an institution, wasn't it?
It was an amazing place.
I can also remember the Albury. I
loved the Albury.
I mean, the Albury was like coming to an end of its life when I moved here.
I closed the Albury.
Oh, did you?
I was one of the queens on the final night. I'd started drag about 2 months before, and I did the final Polly's Follies at the Albury on the final night.
Well, that was an institution too.
It was amazing.
Yeah. No, the whole thing, you asked me what the difference was between London and here, and I guess more of a sense of fun here, and I think more of a sense of sort of involvement with the crowd.
Yes.
You felt like you were part of the scene.
Yeah, great.
You felt like you were really interacting with the queens.
That's fabulous. And when you've been watching, now obviously we will get into Drag Race Down Under, but were you enjoying Drag Race UK as well, and seeing all those fantastic girls who have been shown over the last 2 seasons?
I've got a real admission to make. I haven't watched Drag Race UK.
You haven't watched UK?
I know a lot of the... I follow some of those queens on Instagram. I follow them on social media, like the Vivienne and all that. They're all amazing. But I haven't actually watched it.
Oh, my God, well, you must.
It's Drag Race Down Under that's got me back into it.
Well, that's fantastic, and so it should. Now, have you ever done drag yourself?
I certainly have.
Yes.
More times than I should probably admit to.
Have you done numbers?
No, I've never performed.
Right,
I have
so
never
just
performed.
social.
Maybe one of these days, you never know. Never say never.
They'll put you on Drag Race season 2 now, Neale. You know, watch out. Do you have a drag name?
Yeah, I do.
What's your
okay,
drag
well,
name?
my partner David decided that it had to be something that had Neale in it, so he came up with Chenille.
Fabulous.
And I said, what, like a chenille blanket?
Fabulous.
Chenille blanket.
Chenille blanket.
Chenille blanket.
It is fabulous to have Chenille blanket on the show. Now, who were your favourite drag girls around the scene here who haven't been on RuPaul's Drag Race?
Oh, gosh. Oh, Minnie Cooper.
Yes.
Oh, now you're asking me. You're putting me on the spot. All those amazing girls that used to perform. I remember the days of Hilary Hoist. Do you remember Hilary Hoist?
No, I didn't.
Oh my God,
Hillary.
yeah, Hilary. Remind me of some of the names.
Like Mitzi Mackintosh. Did
Yes.
you see Mitz?
Yes, Mitzi
Mackintosh.
Winnis Mongrel Bitch, yes. They
I
all
love
used to
Winnis.
perform back in my Oxford Street days.
And yes.
Maud Boat.
Maud Boat is an
Maud Boat.
institution. She was almost on Drag Race Down Under this season.
Oh, really?
She was on hold and
What happened?
she doesn't know.
Oh, okay.
But she's telling everybody.
Well, you would. You would.
You'd have to. I think that's the thing. All right, well, let's get into a recap
Yes.
of RuPaul's Drag Race Down Under, Episode 4.
You know who I mean.
So, Episode 4, Neale, here we are. We have just had the exit of Coco Jumbo. We come in to see Coco and her mirror message. Obviously, witty and fabulous to the end. What did you think about Coco's exit on the show?
I was really sorry to see her go.
Yeah.
I love Coco.
Yes.
I mean, I'm biased. Coco's one of my favourite queens. I love her. And because I know her and I've seen her perform so many times, I know that she's capable of so much more.
Yes. I don't think she necessarily got to show everything that she could have.
Definitely not.
And she was fabulous in that lip sync. And we said last week, that it was a tough competition last week, but I felt that she needed a bit more time on the show to really sort of get it out there, who she is and what she's about.
She didn't really find her groove, did she?
She didn't, but it certainly was disappointing to those girls that she was gone.
Yeah, I think so too. She was popular, wasn't she?
I think she was popular with them in the room.
And do you know what? I don't think she's as bad a singer as they were making out. I've heard a lot worse. She wasn't that bad.
No, she wasn't that bad. And I thought that, she was still fabulous and it was great to have her as part of the show.
Yeah.
So Coco's gone. The girls are quite upset. But it sort of goes straight back to Elektra, and this is where a lot of this episode sits in this moment of really, I felt at times, the girls were arse cunts to each other.
Yeah, they were.
And certainly Scarlett and etc. had it out for Elektra from that moment of her cleaning the lipstick off the mirror.
Yep. The bitch factor went up, didn't it? Went through the roof.
Absolutely.
What was the comment that Scarlett made about Elektra, about something about how she wasn't looking good?
Yeah.
There was some comment, I can't remember the exact words they used, but basically she was trying to analyse why she'd been in the last two.
Absolutely. And she was, and then she said the words, you can roll it in glitter. You can roll a turd in glitter, but it's still a piece of shit.
Yes.
I mean, that was
harsh.
That's strong words, even for Drag Race. And we've seen some bitch fights on that show. But I felt that this week they really went Elektra. And I think it was very shocking. And I don't know whether it's the cabin fever because we know that this show is shot in such a short amount of time. And these things that we're calling weeks are only days really.
Yeah.
So when you think that we're only up to probably day 8 or 9 of shooting, there was a lot. I felt there was some cabin fever happening.
Oh, well, something was happening, definitely, because it was the first thing I noticed when I started watching the episode. I thought all that sort of bonhomie, all that good feeling, gone.
Gone.
And they were going for the jugular with poor old Elektra.
Absolutely. And then, we've moved on and into the next day in the workroom, and there seemed to still be this sort of their nagging.
Yes.
There was a lot of bullying going on. There was a lot of little niggles and little comments, especially from Scarlett, sort of really pushing Electra's buttons right from the get-go. And then, of course, we have Ru enter the workroom, and in come the pit crew with a basket full of shit. Which we all know what's coming because we've seen the show before. But she comes in with all of these objects and starts on this sort of monologue about objects haven't had second chances. Which I have to say, and then Art Simone jumps out.
Yes, I didn't see that coming.
So, how did you feel about Art coming back into the competition?
Well, I suppose mixed feelings, because I love Art, and I think he's very, very clever.
Yes.
I do. I think he's in a class of his own. There's no one quite like him.
Yeah.
He's a real character. But then I thought, how do we justify him coming back into the show?
Yeah.
I suppose how do we justify it? Ru decided.
I felt that there wasn't a good enough explanation.
No.
They should not have... Ru didn't give us a reason.
No, he didn't.
Because I personally felt like if they were going to do it for Art, they should have done it for Coco and Jojo and... who else did we lose? Gosh, I can't even remember. Gosh, they're blending in already. But all three girls... I was only three. That's correct.
Three
girls,
have gone so far,
they should have all come back.
No, Trevor, I'm so glad you said that, because I was waiting for a reason to be given.
Yes.
And there was no reason. I thought, Ru obviously is all powerful, so if he decides that Art's coming back, Art's coming back.
Yeah.
But the other girls were sort of like standing around like, whoa, what's going on?
Yeah. And I think that favouritism that they've shown Art with this, especially with the tantrum that she threw leaving the workroom that day, the message she wrote, all of that stuff, I didn't feel that it was a redeemable enough story. I just didn't see why she got special treatment.
No, it is strange, and I think she's come back too quickly, maybe. They should have left it, if they were going to bring her back, then give it a bit longer.
Yeah.
But also, when that kind of stuff happens, it does make you think, is that everything so set up? It makes you question, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes you question how authentic it is.
Now, you're on one of the biggest, reality television shows, being The Block. I mean, you don't really have eliminations as such. But do you feel that when you've seen it, you obviously have very little interaction with the contestants?
Hardly any.
Hardly any at all. So do you find that all of the people come out of something like that and think that they've gotten a fair, as Maxie would say, a fair suck of the sav?
I love that, suck of the sav. Block contestants?
Yeah.
No, they never think they've got a fair suck of the sav.
Right.
Well, no, they do if we're nice about them and we give them 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But if we don't, then no, of course they think they've been slighted and ripped off.
Which I think was Etcetera's storyline, this whole episode, was that she sort of, apart from having a sort of superiority complex, she also could not take criticism today. She could not take it. And she really needed, everyone was, even when Electra was saying to her, you know what, you've been safe, darl, so you're not winning, and you call yourself a look queen, and you're not winning those runways. It was interesting way that she's sort of felt. I felt she and Scarlett was sent the villain edit this week.
Yeah, no, they were. Well, they were. And I felt like I was on a bit of an emotional roller coaster with Etc. too, because at first I felt definitely the villain, yes, and the bitch factor was going up and up and up. And then, of course, we got the quite touching sort of speech about being non-binary.
Yes.
And there was quite a sort of tender moment there, and we saw an almost sort of gentle side to her. But then the bitch from hell came back again.
Absolutely. It was she was on a roller coaster this week. That's absolutely right. So Art comes in. We do find out that she wrote that note to Coco.
Yes. Well, he gave it away, didn't he? He said, nobody saw me.
Nobody saw me.
Nobody
it was
saw
a
me.
ghost.
Yeah, it was a ghost.
But he knew all about it.
Yes, of course.
Didn't he? And he hadn't been there for a week. So it was an interesting thing that was where he... that he sort of admitted to it. Look, we all love the campery and the bitchery of drag, and that's one of the reasons we watch the show. But as we say, getting into this week, it certainly felt that workroom was really interesting. So they've gone and grabbed all their objects, they've got everything ready, everyone's grabbing shit, which is always hilarious. And... Maxie's got all the drag bags, it felt to me like Etc. had grabbed some curtains, whipped up a dress in about 20 minutes, and she was done. I don't know what she did all episode. She was just sitting around. I think she had too much time in her hands.
But what happened to the kangaroos? Because she was going to be the kangaroo hunter. That was Electra. Electra was going to be the kangaroo hunter. Right. Unfortunately, that was nipped in the bud.
Absolutely. Well, let's talk about that. So Ru comes into the workroom. Yeah. It was exciting to see each of the girls have a really good amount of time with Ru.
Yes.
I thought this episode, and that was what was really lovely, was that we did have sort of some really nice one-on-one reactions. Once again, Etc. had said to Ru, I haven't had any feedback. And so Ru was sort of giving her feedback, and she was taking it. It was all quite lighthearted. Karen from finance, let's talk about the fact that Karen had decided to make a giant doobie and come down the runway as Schapelle Corby. Yeah. And she said to Ru, do you know who Schapelle Corby is?
And he said no.
And he said no.
Yeah.
Which, of course, look, here's the thing. One of the things I do find funny about Drag Race, and when, Ru's married to an Australian, so, knows a bit about our culture, but I felt that, in Snatch Game, it was a bit obvious that sometimes Ru maybe hadn't have done her Ru search and actually looked at all of the characters and knew what everyone was talking about. But this week, it was interesting for her to go flat, no, I've never heard of it. And Karen having to try and explain who Schapelle is. And my favourite comment was Ru going, well, she has a fabulous name. Yeah. But if only you'd seen her, darling.
Yeah, I so felt for Karen at that moment, because it's like when he said no, he hadn't heard of her, you could see her face just dropped, and it was like, oh, game over. But I was surprised because Ru is pretty good on his Australian culture. He'll even come out with, look at me, look at me, look at me. So I thought he was. So I was surprised when he said he hadn't heard of Schapelle Corby.
Maybe it's just one of those stories. And for international listeners and watchers, the Schapelle Corby thing is huge here. This girl, it was a major news story for years.
Yeah,
actually,
for years.
Years, because she was in jail and she had the appeal and the court case and the whole thing that went on and on and on. Yeah. We've had a telly movie about Schapelle. So it's, for us to hear, I would not even realise nobody had ever heard of that.
She's been on Dancing with the Stars,
She's been
Trevor.
on Dancing with the Stars, for fuck's sake. But even that New Zealand haven't heard of her, I found that really odd.
Me too, actually. Me too.
So then we're going into, talking to each of the competitors. Everybody's talking about what they're going to make. Some of them are more confident as sewers.
Yes.
And less confident as sewers, which is always the case on Drag Race. But, it was really then we go back into sewing and who's putting together good looks. Electra had come up with this idea to be the kangaroo hunter, which was a bit of a shitty idea.
Yes, I'm glad that she dropped that idea.
Yes, I am.
And I'm glad
too.
she took Ru's advice to just wear an elegant gown.
Yeah, and because she needed to do that to show that she could be more glamorous and more, and more... and give a different side of her.
Yeah, she needed to do that.
She had to this week. It was time.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was great that, we'll get into it later, but it is great that she did. So we're still bitching. The girls are still all being tough on each other. Luckily, we had some comedy relief from Maxie saying... asking Scarlett to help her with the sewing machine, and Scarlett helping, and then Maxie turning straight around and saying, "See, Electra, Scarlett's not hideous; she just hates you."
That was a great moment. See, she's lovely.
She's lovely.
She's lovely.
I don't know what you're talking about. After they've been going each other. So we've got all of this drama going on in the workroom, and then we come into the next day when everyone's putting their faces on. And talk turns to the girls saying, Art saying specifically that she has people who always come up to her when she's not in drag and saying how disappointed they are. And the girls have this as a theme. But then we went into talking about Etcetera's identifying as non-binary.
Well, I thought that was an interesting little vulnerable moment from Art Simone as well.
Yes.
Not just from Etc., but just for a split second.
It was the first time I feel like Art hasn't been Art on the show, and that was a nice thing to see.
Yeah. Only a split second, though.
Only a split second.
Yeah. I don't think we'll be seeing much of it.
No, we aren't going to be.
Yeah.
But she was, obviously wanting to talk about something a bit different, and I loved that. And then we went into Etc. chatting, and this was a really nice, vulnerable moment for Etc. saying thank you to the girls for accepting her,
as
her
she
pronouns and or their pronouns. I apologise. Etcetera's pronouns, and spoke about not identifying with parts of their body, and so it was a really beautiful moment. I think it's been important that Etc. has been included in this season because obviously there's been a lot of controversy over the years with Ru not including trans people, not including, So to have a non-binary person, I think, is a really great step for the show, and it was really great to hear that discussion. And I think we have to remember that a lot of young LGBTQIA plus people watch Drag Race.
Yes, absolutely.
From a young age. And how important do you think it's been for younger people?
I would say it's been massively important on so many levels. I mean, I think the influence of Drag Race is just off the charts. Yeah. I mean, I think it's done, well, I would like to think it's done so much for greater acceptance of the community. On a different level, on a slightly more superficial level, perhaps, it's made drag so much more acceptable and so much more mainstream, which I think is a good thing. But in terms of acceptance of sexuality, I think it's probably done a huge amount
and
globally.
Discussions around
and
it
opening
too.
up those discussions too.
And just having those kids be able to see all of these people in front of them who, identify in different ways, who have different stories. We heard about how fabulous, several of the girls' families are, and how much they love it, like Maxie's family, and and then we hear about things like Anissa's father not being as accepting, and Coco's father not being as accepting. So it is really interesting when we get those stories about their lives and their families, and it was a really good moment, and it was a nice moment. As we say, before Etc., because moving forward from this, it starts to get a bit hairy, doesn't it?
Oh, it does.
So we then go into the main stage, and the guest this week was Els Carrot. And so I looked up Els, and I hadn't heard of him before, but it's fabulous. He is a trans actor, and is starring in a fabulous new movie in New Zealand. And about trans people. So it's a fabulous thing that to have someone like that, because I think only we've had Chaz Bono on the show, and I don't know how many other trans people we've had on RuPaul's Drag Race over the years. But what we should do is now get into that runway.
Let's get into it.
Drag hack, yup, a drag hack.
So here we are. It is time to play Hideous or Heaven with the runway looks this week. Now, of course, this whole week has been about these runways and creating the outfit. I think overall a pretty strong week.
It was pretty good, I thought. I thought they'd all been pretty creative.
Yes.
What was the expression? Something about from tragic to magic.
Yes.
Magic to tragic to magic. I love that.
Tragic to magic. I loved it.
To be honest with you, I would have liked to have seen a little bit more what was in that trash to begin with.
Yes.
But hey, we didn't get to see that, but the end result was interesting.
As a style guru, did you think that the girls really were creative this week?
Yeah, I do. Trevor, I do think they were creative. But that's why I would love to have seen, as part of the conversation with Ru, for example, I would have loved them to say, well, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this and I'm going to do this. Some of the girls did it. Some of the girls did, but some of them didn't. Because I wanted to know, it's just me, I want to know what was genuinely in the trash.
Yeah, absolutely. Because, there are outfits that look, incredibly convincing and are definitely fabric. So we should start with our first girl, which was Art Simone. And Art Simone was wearing that sort of pink, fabulous, sort of Marie Antoinette inspired, great makeup. And look, for me, I didn't live and die on the outfit, but I thought what made it was the big clock or thing in her hair.
The little house on the ferry.
The
little house on the ferry. I love that.
Yes. But Art, I thought, but I still think, look, she's back in the competition. Yeah. She's got to be really up there. And tonight, I do have to say, I think she was heaven. Were you heaven?
I think definitely heaven.
Great.
But the only thing I will say is, was that all that stuff really in the trash? I didn't see that much pink when the trash came in.
No, I know. Well, who knows? Next up, we had Keita Mean done up in the balls outfit, which I did enjoy. I thought this was very whimsical. I thought what was nice about it was that you could tell they were found objects.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was fun. It was fun. Keita Mean's got a good sense of fun. And looking at that outfit, it's got a bit of the circus clown thing going on too. Don't you think? A bit of sort of clown drag.
Yeah.
It reminds me of, I can see a bit of Joyce Main going on there.
Yeah.
Joyce Main.
Joyce Main.
Joyce Main? That's the store. I can see a Joyce Main influence in there. But it's fun. And it made me laugh and it made me smile. So for me, it was...
You're up with heaven. Heaven for me,
I'm up with heaven.
I did enjoy it. I thought too, she always comes to the runway with such an energy.
Yes.
So I really enjoyed watching that, as always.
Yeah.
Etc., says she's made these curtains look like $1 million. A stretch for me, I think.
Look, I'm really torn on this one because I thought from the neck up, she looked amazing.
Yeah.
I thought the makeup was so beautiful.
And the wig
was gorgeous. And she said it was a 1920s reference, and she almost looked like she was in soft focus.
Yes.
She looked like one of those sort of silent movie queens.
Yeah.
So I thought that was beautiful. But then it all went a bit pear-shaped below. It was a bit ordinary.
And I thought that too, it just sort of felt like she hadn't put much effort in, like there wasn't enough. And I felt like you found some curtains. What else? What else did you find? Were there any other objects? Have you incorporated more than one thing?
I think she was relying too heavily on the hair and makeup. Yeah. And at the end of the day, this was a challenge about what they found in the trash and being creative with it. So I guess that...
Yeah, I'm a bit on the hideous end on this one, and I was
hideous with sort of heaven bits.
Yeah,
but the overall, yeah. I'm not allowed to do that.
No,
hideous, yeah.
Yeah. Maxine Maureen Shield is our next person on the runway. Neale, you're a big Maxie fan anyway, but
I am.
What did you think tonight?
I absolutely loved it. She had me at the reference to Vivienne Westwood. Actually, she had me at the plastic bag fabric.
Yeah.
It was just the way she strutted out with the red wig. It's amazing.
It was so well done this week. Yeah. I loved the graffiti accents. I loved the little ruffle on her shoulder. You could see she's having trouble walking in it because that doesn't stretch, as she said. So it was quite a difficult walk. But she nailed the whole styling. And even down to the little Vivienne Westwood purse that was still a drag bag.
No, it was so well done. And do you know what? It took me right back to the 1980s, the London club scene, where people did used to make outfits out of bin liners.
Yeah.
It was a bit more sort of, safety pins and stuff, but it was kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
And I loved it. I loved it.
Absolute heaven for Maxine.
Yes, on a stick.
Let's talk about the doobie in the room. Karen, one of our favourite queens, of course. Neale, what did you think?
The Great Barrier Reefer.
Great Barrier Reef.
I love that. Hey, look, I love Karen. I do love Karen from Finance. She makes me laugh, but I think this did miss a beat because she justified it. She said it helped her be creative by creating a character. That was her way of being creative, to sort of take the character, because Ru questioned it, didn't he?
Yeah.
And I think he was right to question it because she just made life too complicated for herself.
And I think too, she stuck to it too literally.
Yeah.
And Michelle is right when she says later that you can take something like that but then do a drag version. And I felt that this was it was just too basic. The look was too basic.
Yes.
She had just sort of, a T-shirt and a little skirt and
flat shoes.
And yeah, and the boogie board was a cute idea, but maybe she should have had, the boogie board should have been glittered and she should have pulled the pot out of the boogie board. She should have carried it under her arm. It just felt a bit, she couldn't do anything glamorous with it.
No,
and
it was a bit cheap, wasn't it?
It looked cheap. And I mean, we know, look, Karen's not a sewer, but has had spectacular runways so far. It is, I'm sad to say that it was pretty hideous. It
would have been funnier, wouldn't it, if she'd done a really glamorous look with the boogie board and the big reefer?
Yeah,
because the Chappelle would have been glamorous.
Absolutely. Even done a sort of caftan look, like a Bali caftan.
Absolutely. Tie-dye.
Like tie-dye and something ridiculous, and then had the big gay...
Tie-dye caftan.
Yeah, something.
Yes.
She needed something.
I agree.
Like that.
Sorry,
Karen.
Sorry, Karen.
Sorry, Karen. So, Electra has been in the bottom twice out of 4 episodes. Tonight she walks out on the runway in that tie dress, which my favourite joke of the night was actually Reece Nicholson saying she bought that in Thailand.
Yeah, that was hilarious. I love that too.
I'm going to choke. That was hilarious. But that tie dress did look fantastic.
It did. It really looked good. I mean, that's an old trick, isn't it, to sort of sew ties together. But do you know what? When she sashayed out in that, it took me a few seconds to realise that it was all ties.
Yeah.
It just looked great, and I loved seeing her in that huge wig and doing a sort of glamour look for once.
Yeah, and that was really, she needed to this week. She was really, we'd seen her. What I was thrilled about was she listened to Ru in the workroom when she got that feedback, and to come out looking so great in that off-the-shoulder sort of look. It was a fantastic look. It was a fantastic week for her. Under duress, too,
yes.
I would like to say.
I'm so glad she dropped the kangaroos.
I'm glad she dropped the kangaroos as well. Heaven. Thanks, Electra. Anita Wiglet is next up on the runway, one of our New Zealand queens. She came out as a book-burning princess. I liked the story she was telling. Execution? Not great.
I didn't really understand what it was all about. Yeah. So it was pages from a book on the bottom. And what was up top? Was it all like old tape?
It was all bits of old cassette
tape.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I didn't think it was as bad as the judges made out, but it didn't really do it for me.
I think she got a hard read tonight.
Yeah.
I did not think that it was the worst. Like, Karen obviously is the worst look on the runway, but I was sort of, I'm there and there with etc. and her, and I personally, I thought at least it had a bit more drag to it. It had a bit more glamour. With the tapes, at least caught some light. She burnt the book pages. I felt at least there was more creativity, I felt, in what she had done than what etc. had done.
But Ru said that he'd seen that look before and it had been done better. That was so cutting. And I just, I don't know. I mean, it's somewhere between hideous and heaven for me.
I know. I think we're a bit on the fence with that one.
We're sideways on.
Yeah. Okay. The final runway look. Scarlett Adams. I mean, what can we say about this? It's pretty perfect.
Wasn't my favourite.
Wasn't your favourite?
Wasn't my favourite.
Who was your favourite?
I was a bit disappointed, I think, with this one.
Really?
My favourite was Maxi.
Yeah, I think
Maxi was my winner. Look, Scarlett Adams.
They both were great.
They were. Scarlett looks beautiful, and it was a cute idea, the little gingham shorts and that. But
yeah, I liked the
too
story.
Pretty.
I mean, this second week in a row she's drinking on the runway, so she might need a bit of Alcoholics Anonymous style. But she had the big basket, she had the little shorts. She looked great in that sort of 1940s, 50s pin-up. I like the use of the fake grapes and that sort of thing. I thought she showed a lot of creativity.
Clever, yeah,
but
very clever.
She is a seamstress.
Yes.
So I felt like with Maxi not being a seamstress and creating that look compared to Scarlett with that look, it should have been Maxi's week just because she's not a seamstress and she made that and she was perfection.
I agree with you, Trevor. I really agree. I mean, I can't say that definitely Scarlett's wasn't hideous. There's no way. But I'm not 100% with Heaven. So, again, for me, it's a sideways. It's a...
Okay. Well, I like...
Can I do another one?
You can do that. I think it's Heaven. So, moving on then, we go into our critiques. We get Keita and Elektra being safe. So, look, Elektra, I thought that was fair for both of them. And then we sort of got critiques, and we've sort of spoken some of that. But I thought, realistically, apart from Karen, nothing was so bad that it was dreadful.
I agree with you. Yeah.
I feel like it's quite an even group of performers, and I think what really surprised me was then how much it threw, etc., going back into and knowing she was in the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, she didn't like it at all.
Did not like it one bit. Bit of a tanty backstage.
Yeah, like a sort of contained tanty.
Yeah, it was just a bit, and Scarlett still popped the boot in Elektra again by saying, oh, well, Elektra, you know what? You could have been in the top if you'd have maybe styled it better. I mean,
she couldn't
what
resist,
an arsehole. She really can't.
But then Etc. had a go to, didn't he, at Ketamine?
Yes.
Saying that, he couldn't understand why he was in the bottom looking at that outfit, looking at that dress, which was mean. That was mean.
But I think it's also just, that's not... Etc. really went Keita and was like, but that's not her style. And you're like, that's fine. It can be not your style. It's not about your style, etc. It's about the overall, everyone has different identities and looks, as she'd just been talking about earlier in the show of her own, about her own gender identity. That Keita is a campy queen. That is what she does. And I thought the balls were camp.
Yeah.
So we're there. Karen knows she's in the bottom. Karen knows.
Yep.
She was Karen Knowles. She was that. She knew it that much. So they've gone out there. Rue's sort of, given the winner is Elektra. Maxi was obviously right up there with her. And then we went into, the three. So do you think the right two people lip sync this week?
Do I? No, actually. I think it probably should have been Karen and Etc.
I think so too.
I do.
I found, and I know I do this every time with Rue, I do sometimes just question, what are you choosing that for? I feel like sometimes she doesn't, I don't think she sometimes gets it right. And I thought today it should have been Etc. and Karen.
Yeah, it should.
I think it was too... Anita has been such a great part of this competition, the winner of the Snatch Game, one of the funniest queens around the workroom, and it was just sad to see that. So they lip-synced to Danny Minogue's I Begin to Wonder.
Yes.
Which was finally great. We got a Minogue song on the show. We've all been waiting. We can't believe it took till week 4. Where's the Olivia Newton-John, I say? Or in fact, let's have some Ricky Lee. I feel we need to go that Australian. We need a Raining Diamonds at some point. But it was a good up-tempo number.
Yeah.
Now, Karen was very funny.
She was very funny.
However, I have never seen anyone wear an outfit that was quite that ugly. I mean, I'm going down to the sponge dress. This was even uglier than the sponge dress.
But she made me laugh out loud. She took a little time to warm up because the first few seconds of the lip sync, it was like, oh, really? What's she going to do? She was just standing there. But then when she did that sideways movement with the arm,
arm, and every time it was so
that
funny.
cracked me up. I just laughed
very
out.
Funny.
It was very funny.
And Anita, I didn't think got a great edit on. You could see she was doing a lot, but they were really cutting to Karen, cutting away, cutting to Karen, cutting to Karen. I think she got a really good edit, and I just think, they didn't want Karen gone yet. But I personally, I think it should have been Etcetera's week to go this week, and I think especially with the drama she caused, I was like, oh. You're nasty. You need to be out of there. So I hope that, it'll be interesting to see next week because we've got Art back. We've lost Anita, who's one of the funniest and best queens, I think, in the competition.
Yeah.
She's certainly, her looks have always been good until tonight. It's sad to lose her from this competition.
Yeah, I agree. She's got a great personality, and she was giving it everything till the end this week.
Absolutely.
She was glamorous till the end. But Karen, I have to say, Karen did just make me laugh so much because suddenly she was Karen from finance.
I know.
Drunk at the office party, and that was the dancing.
She's not a dancer, old Karen, so it was very funny. But look, I do think it was sad to lose Anita from the competition.
Yes, it was.
After she's done a great job as part, in the competition so far. I'm looking forward to seeing what she does next.
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. It's always sad to lose any of the queens, I think, because they are such fun together.
Oh, sometimes not.
Most of the time, Trevor. Most of the time they are. And I always, it's sad, but that's the game, isn't it? Someone has to go home.
That is the game. Neale Whitaker, thank you so much for being my celebrity drag hag this week.
Thank you, Trevor. It's been an absolute joy. Thank you.
Drag hag, I'm a drag hag.
Oh, well, here we are with the eliminated queen, Anita Wiglet. Anita, it was so sad to see you go.
Oh, thank you so much. Definitely, I was sad to go as well. I wish I could have stayed, but who knows? There might be another dump truck coming in a couple of weeks and I might pop back up again.
How was that? Because obviously that was a huge moment in the show to have Art jump out of the trash. You were obviously all shocked. Were you expecting that to happen?
Not at all. So in episode 2, when Art left, it was genuinely sort of the saddest time on set for me because knowing Art as I do and knowing how much she loves Drag Race and she loves drag, and this was her life. Like, to be on the show was huge. And when she went home, it was devastating for her. And also for me, I felt so sad for her. So when she came back, it was such a mixed reaction. So none of us, I suppose you always think, will there be a Shangela moment? But I kind of had moved on and focusing on myself. So when she came back, I was 50-50. Part of me was like, yes, Art's back. She gets a chance to do it again and she'll be amazing. Another part was like, damn, she's back again and she's such a good competitor. And we shared a wardrobe, so she had to move all my stuff aside again.
Which is always the most inconvenient. You just don't want to be inconvenienced, do you?
Exactly. I mean, she's already packed her bags once.
I know, as if she needed to unpack again. It was a fabulous journey that you had on the show. I loved watching all of your episodes, but I have to say, of course, Snatch Game was a huge highlight. Did you love doing Snatch Game?
It was the most amazing and terrifying experience of my life. So I thought with Snatch Game, I thought they would Ru would ask us a question and we'd have, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes so we could really think about what we were going to write. But we had more like 5 to 10 seconds. It was so fast paced, and it was so genuinely scary. But the results were amazing, and I was so happy. Snatch Game is the one that everyone wants to win, and to win Snatch Game is just. I kind of knew at that point that no matter what happened in the rest of the season, I'd kind of achieved what I wanted to achieve. So it was awesome.
That's fabulous. Look, I think with your Snatch Game too, you just had so many zingers. It was really fabulous. And I will, honestly, that Prince Andrew joke, have you had any flack about the Prince Andrew joke?
Oh, luckily not. I'm just surprised I haven't been cancelled yet, but apparently Prince Andrew's cancelled himself, so it's fine.
Well, that's all right. You see, I was actually thinking it would be more like the RSPCA cancelling you for the joke about the corgis.
I know, and I have a little dog at home called Coco, and I'm so worried every time I post a picture of her, like she'll be sleeping on the bed, or I'm worried people are going to go like, don't use peanut butter.
Is it Coco Jumbo by any chance, your dog?
Oh my gosh, she is definitely hairy enough to be Coco Jumbo.
Oh, that's fab. I also have to say, we loved the first episode, the fantastic runway looks that you gave, but I think that sheep will always be iconic. Do you feel like you have represented New Zealand in a great way?
I think so. I mean, New Zealand is famous for sheep, obviously.
Especially to Australians, so yes.
Yeah. I just couldn't. I knew I had to be a sheep when it was a hometown look, and I'm so glad you enjoyed it. It's made of wool, so it was so hot and quite heavy. But I'm sure I'm going to get my use out of it. Maybe a New Zealand tourism, or maybe like a bestiality miniseries.
Well, I look forward to that. I'm sure it'll be unmissable. Now, darling, obviously, in the first episode, we saw that sort of bit of rivalry between yourself and Keita. How is it now? You're obviously back at work together and business owners together. Has there been any friction because you went earlier than her? You know, how did you feel? How's your relationship?
Sure. It was always an interesting thing with Keita because she's my best friend and my business partner. And we've always been identified as Keita and Anita. We had our own little TV show, House of Drag, together. We do all sorts of, if we get booked for a gig, it's generally always together.
Yes.
So it was kind of being on the show, being separate. But I think it was wonderful in that we both got to show, our own strengths and weaknesses and what we can do and how we're kind of individually performers as well. So coming back from that, I don't know. I think that it's been fine. We still get to work together, which is really fun. It's been amazing seeing her career and my career and what they're doing now compared to what they were doing before. So long may that continue. I don't know. We could be the next Trixie and Katja. Who knows?
That would be fabulous. Now, how was it also with Electra then on the show? Did you obviously she works for you both. Has that dynamic been continued? Are you still working together?
For sure. So it was so funny having Electra on. So not only does she work at Khaleesi for us, she was also on one of the contestants on House of Drag, which Keita and I hosted. So it was so like, oh, this is a bizarre situation seeing her there. But actually, it kind of has changed a little bit now since we've got back to the real world. Electra is now focusing on her sort of solo career. So she's doing a lot of work outside of Khaleesi and nothing at Khaleesi at the moment. But we still bump into each other and do things from time to time. So it was just, it's funny, we may be the bosses of the business, but it never really feels like that. We're just a bunch of friends and we all share ideas.
That's nice. That's wonderful. Now, we got to know a little bit about you personally on the show, obviously. The story about your family was incredibly touching, and it showed what a beautiful heart you have. I think in this episode in particular, it was quite there was a lot of viciousness and quite a lot of bitching happening between the girls. Did you find yourself find it difficult to stay out of that? Did you want to stay out of that?
Yeah, well, Maxie and I were sort of sitting together with our sewing machines, and the room was exploding around us, and it was so strange. I'm the sort of person that's really averse to drama and sort of anger and things like that. I like to just kind of, even if somebody sort of wrongs me, I like to think like, oh, it's okay, like we'll just move past this and we'll continue and kind of get rid of it. So it was super awkward being in the room, but also at the same time extremely entertaining.
I'm sure it was. I mean, it was certainly entertaining for us watching it all unfold. You also revealed that you're a trumpet player in the Navy band. How did that happen?
That is a very good question. So when I was in high school, my music teacher wanted some trumpet players for the jazz band at school, and I really wanted a good grade. So I was like, oh, yeah, I'll do that. And then I discovered that I really enjoyed playing the trumpet. And I went to a Catholic all-boys high school, and it was a rugby school, which I never played rugby, but it turns out in later life I was a very good hooker. But with the trumpet, I kind of found it an escape because I was sort of bullied for being the gay one at school. which I mean I was. I probably should have done all those things in the showers. But, so I decided to play the trumpet, and it was my escapism from high school, really. And then I ended up going and I worked in orchestras, and I did my Masters of Music, which is a major good trumpet performance, which is a ridiculous and stupid degree to get, but fun. And then when I was finishing my Masters in Canada, I got an email from the Navy, a friend in the Navy band, saying, hey, we need new trumpet players in Auckland. Would you be interested? And so I joined, and I was full-time for 4 years, and honestly, the most amazing environment. Like such friendly people, so accepting, and like the amount of semen was crazy.
Well, I hope to one day get to see you do the routine from Gypsy. You got to get a gimmick with live trumpet, please.
Absolutely. Well, you can definitely see me blowing things. Making OnlyFans, because I'm sure there's videos of that as well.
Absolutely, darling. Well, I know that you've won a lot of fans on this show. Now, I'm going to do some quick questions for you, and we're just going to do the first thing that comes into your head. So, what is your favourite word or catchphrase?
Oh, gosh. I actually love chookers.
Chookers. I love chookers as well.
A good old Australian term.
It is. What is your hidden talent?
Oh, blowing. So specifically the trumpet.
What's the wildest thing you've ever done in drag?
I'm not sure I'm allowed to talk about that.
You're a reputable business owner. Thank you very much.
But I would say the wildest thing I've ever done was probably the Broken Hill Festival, and being in drag on a train from Sydney to Broken Hill. I think it's about 9 hours, and entertaining people on the train. It was such an amazing experience.
Well, better you than me, Darl. I couldn't do that. Bloody hell, that's too long in heels, thanks. What's the superpower you wish you have?
I'd love to fly, probably because I think I'd be quite good at flying. With my nose and the size of it, I'm probably quite naturally aerodynamic. I'd be very fast.
Absolutely. What's the most important item that you need to pack when going on a trip?
Undies. For some reason, I pack enough undies like I'm going to shit myself every 5 seconds.
What's the greatest compliment you've ever received?
The greatest compliment? I think probably when people say you're hilarious. I love being talked, because, you know, when you're saying jokes, I love making people laugh, and it's nice to have that confirmation that it worked.
Absolutely. And you certainly were hilarious on the show, I have to say.
Oh, thank you.
Feathers or sequin?
Feathers.
Leather or lace?
Ooh, leather.
Who's your fashion icon?
Ooh, fashion icon. Oh, gosh. Actually, this is maybe a strange choice, but I really like Bianca Del Rio.
I love Bianca's looks too. She's fabulous, you know, and she's amazing. She makes all her own outfits. Of course, we saw this week that you had a bit of a challenge making the dress. Did you think you should have been in that bottom two this week?
Yes, like 100% yes, and maybe 50% no. I wasn't sure whether I loved or loathed my outfit, and I'm still on the fence. So I think it was.
I think they were tough on you because I actually liked Etcetera's less. I thought Etcetera's outfit was a lot more basic.
Right. I think I should have had brownie points for like all the hot gluing I had to do.
And I think the character and the way that you did it too. I think you know the way that you presented yourself on the runway was fabulous.
Oh, thank you so much. It's hard with judging, isn't it? Because everyone always has different opinions, and it just was how the cookie crumbled that week.
I know. And look, it was a great lip sync, and both of you could have really, I almost in some ways would have preferred a double Shantay this week because, and not had Art come back and still have the same amount of girls. That's my personal choice, but there you go.
I would have loved that too.
Absolutely. Weapon of choice.
Weapon of choice. Oh, probably a knife. It's clean.
The question remains, tea or coffee?
Oh, coffee. I love a bit of coffee.
When are you most productive?
I'm actually, ironically, a morning person, despite having to work at nighttime every day of my life.
Elevators or stairs?
Oh, 100% elevators. Once I went over the age of 30, my feet just stopped. They started hurting by looking at them.
Now, this is a tough one. Camping or hostel?
Oh, definitely the hostel, because I feel like the shower options and like the dorms with like 12 men in a room is quite exciting.
And what brings you joy?
What brings me joy? What brings me joy is making other people laugh and seeing their joy from myself.
Fantastic. Now, obviously, last night you performed at Mary's Poppin'. Where can we see you performing over the next few months?
Yes, well, I've actually got my solo show coming out, Anita Wiglet, The Life of a Funny Girl, which is an hour-ish long show about me talking about some of the ridiculous things I got up to in my childhood. So I've got that coming up in June in Auckland, in August in Wellington. I've got Christchurch dates coming, and who knows, maybe an Australasian and a world tour.
I would love to see that. I certainly know that you brought me joy on this show, and everyone is very sad to see you go. Thank you so much, Anita, for joining us on Drag Hag.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. And who knows? I mean, maybe they eliminated me because they secretly want me for Drag Race All-Stars International.
Absolutely. Let's manifest it, doll.
I'm manifesting.
Thanks, Anita.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for joining us once again. Please share, like and subscribe, and join us every week on Drag Hag on all good podcast platforms and on YouTube.
Drag Hag.
Thanks for watching my channel. If you'd like to see any more videos, just look here, and don't forget to like and subscribe.